She was the queen who bent empires to her will, the woman who turned the heads of the most powerful men in history. But what truly defined her power? Was it her fabled beauty, or was it something far more treacherous? Cleopatra. Her name alone conjures visions of bejeweled opulence, seduction, and golden palaces. Cleopatra was no ordinary queen. She was an unstoppable force who could speak 9 languages, command vast fleets, and outwit the most cunning politicians of her time. What kind of ruler could navigate the ruthless world of ancient Rome and keep an entire kingdom from slipping into the hands of its enemies? What kind of leader could defy the greatest empire of the time and fight to secure her nation's survival against all odds? Cleopatra did not just rule Egypt. She was Egypt. Step into a world where strategy meets seduction, where a queen didn't merely sit on a throne but commanded the destiny of empires. Cleopatra, the embodiment of brilliance and audacity, has fascinated and inspired for over 2,000 years. Today, we unravel the secrets behind her enduring influence and discover why her legacy refuses to fade. Cleopatra was not only Egypt's last pharaoh, she represented the enduring legacy of a civilization that had flourished for thousands of years. She carried the legacy of the pharaohs within her, the very heartbeat of an empire that once stood as the world's most advanced society. Her reign represented the enduring spirit of a land whose history stretched back to the dawn of human civilization. Cleopatra was the pulse of Egypt, and as long as she lived, so did its power, its culture, and its majesty. Yet, as her life ended, so did the independence of a land that had defied time itself. Egypt, once a mighty kingdom that commanded the respect of nations, was reduced to a mere possession in Augustus's ever-expanding collection of conquered territories, its sole all but lost to history. Cleopatra's reign was the last heartbeat of a once great empire, whose echoes still reverberated through the sands of the Nile. At a time when the Roman Empire was on the verge of consuming all that lay before it, she stood her ground with unyielding determination. Her alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony were not acts of mere passion. They were calculated moves in a high-stakes game of power. She wielded her influence to position Egypt as a central player in the struggle for Rome's future, using diplomacy, charm, and strategy to secure her kingdom's place in the shifting tides of history. Through these bold actions, Cleopatra influenced not only the fate of her own nation, but also played a key role in the downfall of the Roman Republic and the emergence of the Roman Empire. Cleopatra's presence was felt in the corridors of power, not just in Alexandria, but in the heart of Rome itself. Her alliances were pivotal moments in history, setting the stage for the wars and conflicts that would shape the world for centuries. Through her, Egypt's spirit lived on even as it faced the threat of being absorbed by a new world order. She was the last guardian of an ancient culture, a ruler who fought fiercely to keep Egypt's brilliance alive. With Cleopatra's passing, Egypt's history began to blend into Rome's, its unique identity gradually eclipsed by the rise of a new empire. Yet, even as Augustus claimed Egypt as his prize, the legend of Cleopatra ensured that the spirit of a once great civilization would never truly die. Forget the myths of Cleopatra as merely a beauty who enchanted powerful men. Her true weapon was not her looks, but her intellect, a sharp, formidable force that made her one of history's most remarkable leaders. Cleopatra didn't wait for power to be handed to her. She seized it with both hands. What set this queen apart from others was her mastery of diplomacy and culture. She wasn't just speaking at her court. She was addressing the world, and in 9 different languages, no less. While most of her predecessors were content to rely on translators, Cleopatra spoke directly with foreign dignitaries and leaders. This rare ability enabled her to negotiate on her own terms, ensuring that Egypt was not merely a spectator in the world's political theater, but a central player. Cleopatra was a master diplomat who understood the power of words and cultural understanding. Her knowledge extended far beyond the borders of Egypt. She was well-versed in the political landscapes of Rome, Persia, and other kingdoms. Whether she was dealing with Julius Caesar or Mark Antony, she did so as an equal, engaging them not just with her charm, but with her wit and strategic mind. Cleopatra actively participated in the negotiations that determined the fate of empires. Her intellect made her a formidable force, allowing her to wield influence and maneuver through the treacherous waters of ancient politics. It wasn't just about charm, it was about knowing when to strike, when to retreat, and when to speak. But Cleopatra was not just a queen of words, she was a queen of action. She didn't simply govern from a throne, she led from the front lines. Cleopatra was no figurehead who merely adorned the palace walls. She was a warrior queen who took to the battlefield when her kingdom was at stake. At the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, she commanded her own naval fleet, sailing into war alongside Mark Antony against Octavian's forces. While the battle ultimately ended in defeat, Cleopatra's willingness to stand on the front lines alongside her troops signified her courage and dedication to her kingdom. She was a military strategist, a commander of men and ships. Her actions demonstrated that when it came to defending Egypt, Cleopatra was ready to fight as fiercely as any man, if not more so. Cleopatra's greatest brilliance, however, lay in her understanding of perception and image. In a world ruled by men, she knew that how she was seen was as powerful as what she did. Cleopatra didn't just want to be seen, she demanded to be revered. She shaped her public persona with the same precision with which she governed her kingdom. Associating herself with the goddess Isis, she elevated herself to a status that was not just regal, but divine. In a land where the line between rulers and gods was blurred, this was a powerful move. It wasn't merely about claiming a title, it was about embodying the very essence of Egypt's spirituality. She presented herself as a living goddess, a personification of divine power and authority, ensuring that her rule was not just respected, but worshipped. Her use of imagery and symbolism was ahead of its time. Cleopatra's likeness appeared on coins, statues, and portraits that were distributed far and wide, spreading her image as a powerful and divine ruler across the known world. This wasn't just vanity, it was strategy. She understood that in a male-dominated world, perception was everything, and she shaped it to her advantage. Much like today's influencers craft their public personas, Cleopatra used her image to inspire devotion, command respect, and instill fear. Her coins bore her face and her titles, her statues were placed in prominent locations, and her public appearances were orchestrated with the grandeur befitting a living deity. She knew that if the world saw her as more than just a queen, as a divine force, her power would be undeniable. Cleopatra's alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony were not acts of submission to powerful men. They were strategic partnerships that positioned Egypt at the center of the Roman world. Even as the odds turned against her, Cleopatra continued to fight for her vision of Egypt. The loss at the Battle of Actium marked a turning point, but Cleopatra did not surrender her dignity. When defeat was inevitable, she chose to die on her own terms, rather than be paraded through the streets of Rome as a captive. Her death was an act of defiance, a final statement of her power. It was Cleopatra's way of ensuring that she would not be remembered as a conquered queen, but as a sovereign who commanded her own fate until the very end. Cleopatra's fight for Egypt did not end on the battlefield, nor was it confined to her court. It extended into her relationships, where she wielded love as a tool of power. You've heard the stories. Cleopatra and Julius Caesar, Cleopatra and Mark Antony, the romances that made history blush. But these relationships were not fairy tale love affairs. They were calculated alliances forged in the crucible of politics and ambition. Cleopatra's heart belonged to Egypt, and her romantic entanglements were a means to secure its future, using the most powerful men of Rome to achieve her aims. With Julius Caesar, Cleopatra secured her throne during a turbulent civil war and ensured Egypt's stability. Their relationship elevated Egypt's status and allowed her to eliminate internal threats to her rule. The birth of their son, Caesarion, was no mere byproduct of their union. It was a declaration. Caesarion embodied two worlds, a living symbol of Rome and Egypt united. His very existence was a bold assertion that hinted at the possibility of an Eastern legacy that could rival the power of Rome. The stakes rose even higher when Cleopatra aligned herself with Mark Antony. Their partnership was not just passionate, it was daring. They didn't simply create a love affair, they created an empire within an empire. Cleopatra and Antony envisioned a world where their combined territories would rival the strength of Rome itself. Together, they divided lands, crowned their children as rulers of client kingdoms, and dared to build a new power block in the East. Antony brought the military strength, while Cleopatra wielded her diplomatic savvy, and together, they defied Octavian's ambition to unite Rome under a single ruler. The relationship between Cleopatra and Antony was as much a partnership in power as it was a romance. They were equals on the world stage, bonded by a shared vision of defying Rome's expanding grip. Antony found in Cleopatra not only a lover, but a formidable political partner whose strategic brilliance matched his own ambitions. Their affair became legendary, not because of its passion alone, but because of the magnitude of what they attempted to achieve together, challenging the future Emperor Augustus, risking everything to preserve their vision of a world where Egypt remained an independent, influential power. Even as their fortunes turned, Cleopatra and Antony's loyalty to each other never wavered. When Octavian's forces defeated them at the Battle of Actium, they retreated to Alexandria, where they faced the end together, defiant and unbroken. Cleopatra's decision to join Antony in death, rather than surrender to Rome, was an act of defiance that cemented their legend. She used her love not merely to captivate, but to strategize. Her relationships were carefully crafted alliances that dared to defy the greatest power in the world. When Cleopatra loved, she did so fiercely, with the mind of a queen and the heart of a warrior, blending romance and politics into a single powerful force. Cleopatra's strategic use of her relationships ensured that she was more than just a queen known for her lovers. She was a ruler who understood that love, when wielded wisely, could be a weapon as formidable as any army. Her entanglements with Caesar and Antony were not distractions from her rule, but extensions of it, calculated moves to secure her kingdom's future. Even in the face of defeat, Cleopatra's legacy endured as a sovereign who used every tool at her disposal: love, diplomacy, and war to bend the fate of empires to her will. Cleopatra's pursuit of power went beyond battles and politics. It extended into the art of spectacle, where she turned luxury and grandeur into a tool of power. Picture her at the height of her power, golden light glinting off the jewels that adorned her, incense swirling in the air, and the echoes of exotic music drifting across the Nile. Cleopatra didn't just win battles or secure treaties. She commanded attention with breathtaking displays of opulence that left the ancient world in awe. Her strategic relationships with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony were brilliant maneuvers, but her genius shone equally bright in the unforgettable moments she orchestrated, each one crafted to mesmerize, assert her kingdom's dominance, and leave a lasting impression on even the most hardened Roman. Imagine Cleopatra sailing down the Nile, not in a simple vessel, but on a barge covered in gold, with sails of royal purple, perfumed by the finest exotic fragrances. This was no mere journey, it was a declaration of power and grandeur, setting the stage for her first meeting with Mark Antony. It wasn't just a diplomatic engagement, it was a carefully crafted performance. Cleopatra arrived not as a queen seeking favor, but as a living goddess, appearing as Aphrodite herself, the deity of love and desire. Her golden barge shimmered in the sunlight, musicians played enchanting melodies, and the air was thick with the scent of incense and flowers. Antony wasn't merely meeting a ruler, he was encountering a legend. Cleopatra had already won before a single word was spoken, casting Antony under her spell with every lavish detail designed to seduce and enthrall. This approach wasn't about indulgence for its own sake, it was a calculated strategy. Cleopatra understood that power was as much about perception as it was about alliances. To make Egypt a formidable force in a world dominated by Rome, she had to ensure that her kingdom was seen not only as an equal, but as a civilization that could rival even the might of the Roman Empire. Her opulent displays, from the grandeur of her barge to the lavishness of her feasts, were statements of Egypt's wealth, culture, and prestige. Cleopatra didn't just host banquets, she orchestrated spectacles where the rarest delicacies were served on golden plates, and the wine flowed endlessly, leaving guests intoxicated not only by the drink, but by the aura of power that surrounded the queen. These were not mere gatherings, they were acts of diplomacy, where Cleopatra charmed foreign dignitaries and influential Romans, subtly securing political support and loyalty with each glittering event. Her mastery of spectacle was also a means of control. In a male-dominated world, Cleopatra used her extraordinary displays to ensure that those who saw her didn't just view her as a ruler, they saw her as a divine figure, a woman who transcended the limits of mortal authority. By embodying the goddess Isis, she intertwined her image with that of Egypt's most revered deity, projecting an aura of invincibility and divine favor. Cleopatra knew that the perception of divinity could be a powerful tool, and she wielded it with the same precision as she did her fleets and armies. To her enemies, she was a symbol of defiance. To her allies, she was the embodiment of Egypt itself, a living reminder that the kingdom was a power not to be underestimated. Cleopatra's feasts and spectacles were more than entertainment. They were exercises in soft power, where politics, culture, and seduction blended seamlessly. She knew that sometimes the greatest victories came not from the clash of swords, but from the winning of hearts and minds. By showcasing Egypt's vast wealth and cultural richness, Cleopatra positioned her kingdom as a center of sophistication and influence that could rival Rome itself. Why fight a war when you can win a battle over dinner? For Cleopatra, each banquet was an opportunity to reinforce her image, charm influential figures, and secure the future of her realm. Her first encounter with Mark Antony wasn't the only time Cleopatra used such theatrics to her advantage. Throughout her reign, she continued to employ these grand displays, both to project power and to disarm those who might challenge her. By embracing luxury and spectacle, Cleopatra maintained a sense of control even as political tensions grew. Her ability to make an entrance that people would never forget and to turn a feast into a statement of power ensured that she remained at the center of attention, commanding respect and inspiring awe. The message was clear. Egypt was untouchable, and so was its queen. Yet Cleopatra's brilliance was in understanding that while the display of wealth and opulence was crucial, it was ultimately a means to an end. The real power lay in what she accomplished through these displays, solidifying alliances, negotiating terms, and keeping Egypt relevant in the face of Rome's expanding empire. Her reign was a balancing act of maintaining tradition while adapting to the changing political landscape, and every lavish spectacle was a reminder to the world that Egypt was still a force to be reckoned with. In the end, Cleopatra's use of feasts, opulence, and theatrical displays transformed the art of diplomacy into a form of performance, one where the stakes were as high as the ambitions of Rome itself. Cleopatra knew that to leave a lasting legacy, she had to be unforgettable, not just a queen, but a legend. Through her reign of spectacle and splendor, she achieved just that, ensuring that her story would echo through the ages as one of power, strategy, and the relentless pursuit of a dream that was as grand as any feast she ever hosted. Cleopatra's reign was a masterclass in the art of spectacle, a blend of diplomacy and performance where every gesture carried weight and every display served a purpose. She knew that to rule as a queen was to captivate, to dazzle, and to wield influence with an air of the divine. But Cleopatra's mastery of spectacle didn't end with her life. It extended beyond the grave, shrouding her final days in mystery and adding to her legend. Even in death, Cleopatra controlled the narrative. Her end was as dramatic and unforgettable as her life. Legend has it, she chose her fate, allowing an asp to deliver the final bite that would seal her story. This was no act of surrender, it was a queen's final act of defiance. Cleopatra took control of her story one last time, leaving the world with an exit as mysterious as it was poetic. But the mystery surrounding Cleopatra did not end with her death. To this day, no one has discovered her tomb, and her final resting place remains one of history's most captivating unsolved secrets. It is believed that she and Mark Antony were buried together, united in death as they were in life. But where they lie has eluded archaeologists for centuries. Some say their tomb rests beneath the sands near Alexandria, while others suggest a hidden sanctuary, sealed off from the prying eyes of history. This mystery only deepens her legend, drawing countless explorers and historians into the quest for a final piece of Cleopatra's story. Cleopatra's life was a testament to the power of choice, intelligence, and defiance. She ruled not just with the might of an empire, but with the brilliance of a strategist and the allure of a performer. Even in her final moments, she remained a queen who chose her fate and shaped her legacy. Her death was not the end of her story, it was the beginning of a legend. And with the whereabouts of her tomb still unknown, Cleopatra left the world with one last riddle. Where does a queen who ruled her life, her love, and her empire finally rest? Cleopatra embodied a force so transformative that she bent the world to her will, reshaping the very nature of power and commanding history itself. With unmatched brilliance, she transformed politics into a high-stakes game where she was always a step ahead, wielding diplomacy, seduction, and spectacle as weapons sharper than any blade. Under her reign, Egypt was not merely seen, it was felt, its culture and influence extending across the ancient world, a civilization reborn in the heart of its last pharaoh. Her impact was felt far beyond the borders of her kingdom. Cleopatra shattered the mold of what it meant to be a woman in power, proving that the throne was not just for men and that a queen could command not only armies, but the destiny of empires. She was not content to be a pawn in Rome's ambitions. She was a strategist, a warrior, a diplomat, and a temptress of legend who danced with fate and made the world take notice. Cleopatra redefined female authority, setting a standard of audacity and ambition that would echo through history, challenging every expectation of her time. Cleopatra's legacy is not just a chapter in history, it is an anthem of defiance and brilliance, a testament to the power of one woman to shape the course of nations and the flow of time. She did not merely occupy the stage of history, she commanded it, crafting a legend that has refused to fade for over 2,000 years. Her story is a reminder that true leaders don't just rule, they transform, inspire, and leave behind a legacy that defies time itself. Cleopatra's influence still pulses through the veins of history, a timeless reminder that the greatest empires are not only those that conquer lands, but those that conquer the human spirit. If you've been captivated by Cleopatra's extraordinary tale of power, strategy, and defiance, don't let the story end here. Hit that like button to show your appreciation for history's most fascinating queen. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of powerful rulers who shaped the ancient world. Share this video with friends who love diving into the depths of history. And don't forget to leave a comment telling us what aspect of Cleopatra's reign you found most intriguing. Until next time, remember, in the game of empires, Cleopatra played to win.